Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third day of Words in the Garden. This first session is a book discussion on Pranab, My Father, A Daughter Remembers by Sharmistha Mukherjee in conversation with Nidhi Razdan. Sharmistha Mukherjee is a classical dancer and a choreographer with more than 30 years of performing experience. Sharmistha Mukherjee has showcased her art in prestigious national and international forums in over 40 countries. In 2014, she joined politics and became a national spokesperson of the Indian National Congress. In 2021, she quit politics. She has authored a book on her father, Pranab, My Father, A Daughter Remembers. She currently runs the Pranab Mukherjee Legacy Foundation. A little brief about the book. A glimpse into the life of Pranab Mukherjee, the 13th President of India, written by his daughter. This book delves into Pranab's political journey, his unfulfilled ambition of becoming Prime Minister, and sheds light on behind-the-scenes stories involving prominent figures like the Gandhis, P.V. Narasimha Rao, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Dr. Manmohan Singh, and Narendra Modi. Through diary entries, personal narratives, and rare photographs, the book provides a multi-generational narrative from a remote West Bengal village to the political corridors of the India's capital. Nidhi Razdan is an award-winning journalist who worked with NDTV for 23 years and became the channel's executive editor. She is now a columnist with the Gulf News and director of the School of Communications at IILM University, Gurugram. She will be in conversation with Sharmistha Mukherjee. Welcome both of you, and we look forward to a great session.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes, I think you can hear me now. Thank you so much for coming to this session, the last day of Words in the Garden. And it actually gives me great pleasure to be in conversation with Sharmistha Mukherjee today. I had the privilege of getting to know her father as a young reporter over the years when he was in different positions in the Congress, as Foreign Minister of India, as President of India. It has been a pleasure to know Sharmistha Mukherjee herself when she was in active politics, and I think it's a loss to politics when people like you are no longer there, but we'll talk about that a little later. You know, what's interesting about this book that you wrote on your father is that it's based on your conversations with him over the years and also on diaries that he had kept. And I understand that he had told you that these diaries are not to be made public until after he's gone. What was that experience like for you to actually read those diaries? It must have been very emotional for you.
Absolutely, Nidhi. And firstly, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me, and thank to all of you for being here. And of course, Nidhi, for agreeing to have this conversation with me. Yes, my father's diaries had been a matter of long speculation and curiosity among the journalists for a long time, because he had this childhood habit of writing diaries. And the earliest one I got was of 1971. And no matter what, irrespective of his busy schedule, I mean, he would just write at least a page or so. And the diaries were with me for safekeeping, but with the strict instruction that I can't read those till the time he was there. Because diaries are very intimate, very personal documents. So obviously nobody would like to. And after that, he said that, and after that, whatever you want to do, you want to publish them, whether you don't. But everything posthumously. So after his passing away, when I actually started reading those diaries, it was very difficult. It was, it was a very emotional journey. I took some time to gather myself, to control myself. But it also revealed a very different, world, for my father, about my father. And I always had this, obviously, like I think any daughter, that my father is very strong, very this thing. But to see the also vulnerabilities, and not just in terms of politics. He's it is like very personal. And for example, he wrote, we are a family of avid dog lovers. So somewhere in 1970s, one of our dogs called Jimbo had passed away, and he wrote that night that he was very depressed throughout the day. And at night, he actually hid in the bathroom and cried his heart out. Now to read that about my father, who, like the people of his generation, never showed their emotion. So to think about my father hiding in the bathroom and crying because our dogs passed away. So these are many things, I discovered different facets of him. So it's not just about politics. The book is also about him as a person, and the book is also about his relationship. His relationship not only with the leading political figures, the prime ministers, but about his mother, with his wife, with his leader and mentor, Indira Gandhi. And of course, my relationship with him. So the book is primarily, I think, about the relationships.
I was going to ask you if there was something in his diaries about him that surprised you. So clearly it was the vulnerabilities about the kind of person he was. What surprised you the most, actually, that you didn't know about him? Did you discover something completely new about him?
Well, as I said, that, I could not think about my father, that kind of rock-solid person who never shows.
Didn't show emotion to you?
No, never. He was never a cuddly dad. He was never, and I think that was very common with people of that generation. They were not very open about their emotions. Of course, that your father loves you, but he was never that kuchipui, never that cuddly, never, they always, there was always a degree of formality. Unlike with your mother, with my father, there was always a certain degree of formality. I just could not go and sit on his lap as a child. It's as simple as that. To see that side of him was like something very personally, very, revealing to me. And of course, there are many things, and he had been very open and very honest in his diaries. And that's why I think he was absolutely sure that even I can't also read them till the time he was there.
So when you started reading the diaries and when you got around to writing this book, did you leave out anything? Did you feel that there were certain things that you just could not make public and that you've decided to just...
Yeah, firstly, there are 51 volumes. So in that, there are many things. It's also a journey not only of an individual, but also whatever, it's this 5 decades of political happenings, seen from his perspective. So on one hand, it is that, living as a side personal. So it was just not simply possible to accommodate, all the contents of the 51 volumes in one book. That will take, it's not also publication of his diary, because that will take a different kind of structure. But, the focus of this book was primarily his own political journey, his personal and political journey, and his relationship with the prime ministers he has worked with. Every book needs to have a focus. So that was the focus of this book. So, anything outside the scope of this, of course, I have left out. And there are, wherever I felt, because my father was in very key positions in the government, wherever I had even little doubt, that information might breach the official secrets, official security, or whatever, Official Secrets Act, I did not touch it. So it needs further research, it needs more, reading, rereading, and as I said that, every book, I have just written one book, based on his diaries from one aspect. And it is also not really his biography in the sense, I haven't touched upon Pranab Mukherjee as an administrator. I haven't touched upon Pranab Mukherjee as a parliamentarian. That would have needed far more research, far more, getting into official documents. So this is more of a personal kind of, I would say, tribute to my father and his political journey. So many things, wherever I felt that perhaps, these are not.
Anything explosive?
Like,
That
for
you left
example,
out?
no, for example, I'll tell you, and because I'm telling you, because obviously it is not explosive. When I read about the back channel talks between India and Pakistan, and Mr. Satinder Lamba, he was
Prime Minister's Special
that.
Envoy,
Yes, he was, and Joydeep, I think Joydeep Chatterjee. Sorry, another IFS officer. So they used to regularly come and brief my father. Now, I was not very sure that whether I should include this in the book, because I did not know how much of it is there in the public domain, because my own lack of knowledge of administrative procedures, and also in a sense political knowledge, because I joined politics since just 2014. Before that, I was simply away in a completely different world. Like in IIC, I have performed at least, I think, dance performance 2,000 times, but for the first time I'm coming as a speaker, anything to do with politics. So my world was totally different. So there are many things, I left out because I was not sure. But anyway, about this back channel diplomacy issue. So when the first draft was written and sent, and a couple of months later, I learned that Mr. Lamba himself has written a book on it. So there are things, which are, but as I said that, if there is anything what I felt might violate the Official Secrets Act, I just left it out.
I'm going to come to the politics in just a minute, because it's, of course, the most interesting part of the book, his relationship with different prime ministers, his own political journey. But what was he like as a father? I mean, here is a man who had the most incredible political career that spanned decades, different roles. And as you said, he wasn't a cuddly father. You couldn't go and sit in his lap. But what was it like to be his daughter?
I think, this, and the credit for this goes to my mother, because my father, as he became more and more busy, the whole responsibility of running the household, raising the children, totally, fell upon my mother, as in any traditional family. And she made it sure that my father's position never got into our head. I think that is something I really give my credit to my parents. And my father's official persona was totally out of my bounds. I mean, I could, ask for a sari, money for a sari, or I could say that I want to pay for my, I want to go for a holiday somewhere, so pay for it, And of course, those things also did not come easily. So you have to cry, crave, complain, fight, the usual haggling. But if I would have ever said that, there is some promotion for my friend's father or something, immediately, there would be, like, his face would become red and a strict no. So from the very childhood, it was part of my growing up process that I can't expect anything from my father's official position. So, and I think that is something which is very good. I mean, I think that is something also which served me pretty well in life, because otherwise, being 5 years the president's daughter, Rashtrapati Bhavan can really spoil you. But I kept on reminding myself that this is absolutely temporary, and so that's why I don't have any problem, being just myself. So I think that is the greatest gift my parents have
He was actually
given me.
quite infamous for his short temper, wasn't he? He would lose his cool, but he'd also cool down very quickly.
Yes, that's true. He was known for his temper, and I have given many anecdotes in my book about it, and not just with journalists, but in the parliament also. And in fact, I remember once in his presidential years, Sushma Swaraj met me at a function, and she told me that how much Baba is being missed at the parliament. So I jokingly asked her, "Are you missing his temper too?" So she said, "No, Dada lost his temper, but he was never mean or never hit below the belt. And within 5 minutes, he would become absolutely all right." So his temper did not hurt anybody, did not hit anybody. So I think...
Well, I'll share this little story of his temper that I personally was the target of. He was Foreign Minister of India. I was interviewing him. The interview was supposed to be on the SAARC summit, which was happening. And like all good journalists, I decided not to stick to the script and ask him about some other controversy that India was involved in that time with Iran and the US. And he got so angry on camera, he took the mic off and he said, "How dare you ask me these questions? I will complain about you to your boss." And he stormed off. And I was really scared that, I've upset him, I don't know what's happened. After about 10 minutes, Pranab Roy called me and he was laughing on the other end. He said, "What have you done to Pranab Mukherjee?" So I said, "Oh no, he's called you." And he said, "Yes, but he called me to say that please apologize to Nidhi, I should not have yelled at her," which I thought was very, very sweet of him. And Pranab said, "Yeah, I still want to know what you did to him." I said, "I didn't do anything. I just asked him a question." So that was like, one of the examples where I was at the receiving end and the whole Ministry of External Affairs, was in a tizzy. But coming to, his political career, I think one of the things, of course, that made headlines from your book was the fact that here was a man who held all these important positions in government. He became the President of India, but he did not ever become Prime Minister of India, which perhaps was his unfulfilled ambition. And you've written in the book about how he very bluntly told you in 2004 when the Congress had the largest number of seats and Sonia Gandhi said, "I will not become Prime Minister." He told you, "Sonia Gandhi will never make me Prime Minister." And the rest is history. Why was there this sort of air of mistrust with the Gandhi family and him? Where did it start from?
Firstly, let me say that my father, he considered Indira Gandhi as his mentor. And throughout his life, till the end, very end, he always said that whatever he was, wherever he reached in his life, it was all because of Indira Gandhi. So I think post Indira Gandhi, from Rajiv onwards, there was some degree of mistrust. Again, I have written it elaborately in my book, giving various instances, which I don't want to reveal too much, because then nobody will buy my book. But I think one of the reason was that firstly, my father was a strong personality. And he did not, he had the experience, he had the tutelage of a person like Indira Ji. Then over the years, and even during Indira Ji's cabinet also, he was number 2, despite being the youngest minister. Over the years, he developed humongous, political, administrative experience. He was extremely thorough in his homework. You ask any senior journalist or any senior bureaucrat, he had a very quick, he could grasp a subject very quickly and he would get into detail of it, and he had his phenomenal memory. And he had his views about things, and which he did not hesitate expressing it very openly in cabinet meetings or in the party forum. Such a person, in his own analysis, where he has written in his own analysis, that such a person never blindly toe the line. And in a very personality-centered political culture, perhaps the supreme leaders might find it a bit difficult to work with such a person. So perhaps, this is my conjecture, this was also his guess, that perhaps this is the reason where, Rajiv Gandhi onwards, he has given different instances where, he very strongly opposed Rajiv's view in CWC and CPB meetings. And he wrote in his diary that perhaps he didn't like my tone and tenor of my protestations. And there are many other issues. So it could be perhaps that was the reason, a person with a tremendous experience in politics, administrative, in his administrative capacity, who could do his, he used to do his homework immaculately, who had very strong reasoning. He would, his every argument would be backed by facts and figures. You also must have seen that. He would just rattle off facts, figures, precedents. So he knew his subject. He knew the topic he was dealing with. He was never wishy-washy about it. So such a person would never blindly to anybody's line. So I guess perhaps, why the reason Sonia ji didn't make him the Prime Minister, that is one question only she will be able to answer. Nobody else can answer this question. Rest are all conjectures. But I think my father's guess was, and I also tend to agree with him, that this was perhaps the reason for lack of complete trust. I mean, I would not say lack of trust. Obviously, Sonia Gandhi did trust him enough to entrust him with like very key, not only portfolios.
Absolutely. But there was just that.
So that perhaps that complete trust, and also it was kind of said that Dr. Manmohan Singh was not a political person. So I do not know that what was the reason of Sonia Gandhi's, why did she take that decision? But one thing I'm sure,
What did your father feel about that?
He was absolutely fine with it. And in fact, even before 2004, the earlier election, 5 years before, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee, 99, when he became the Prime Minister. So that time, Dr. Manmohan Singh contested from South Delhi. Lok Sabha. And that time my father wrote in his diary, I still remember, that Dr. Singh is contesting. In all likelihood, he will win. And if he wins, he is going to be the prime ministerial face for Congress. So even in 1999 also, he thought that in case of Congress win, Dr. Manmohan Singh is going to be the prime ministerial face. So I don't think he had the desire. Of course, he had the desire, but he somehow accepted it that, he's never going to be the number one person in trust of complete trust with the Gandhi families post Indira Gandhi. So perhaps, he accepted it. And once he told me, that is much later in his presidential years, that in the cutthroat world of politics, everybody safeguard their own interest. Perhaps Sonia ji was just safeguarding her and her family's interest. And she had the power to choose the Prime Minister, and she did it. So what's there to argue about it?
What was his relationship like with her, personally?
I think it was a very warm working relationship, and there are like thousands of instances, and throughout his UPA 1, UPA 2 years, there are mentions about, some kind of tension between him and the Prime Minister, between him and Sonia ji also, and or between others. So he told me many times that, once, working together doesn't mean that, you have to agree on everything every time. And in fact, he said it in many different contexts. So working under such high pressure, condition for 10 years, there were bound to be differences. But, what I saw that, that in the meetings, sparks flying, there was tension, but after a point, everything seems to be okay. So what I felt that all the key people within UPA 1 especially, they knew how to handle the differences. I think that was the most important thing.
But it's interesting because what comes from what you've just said is, or what flows from it, is that obviously there is a certain personality cult that has built around the Gandhi family. It's not unique to them. It happens across our political parties. We have a personality cult around the Prime Minister today. We have it in other political parties also. But Pranab Mukherjee was in a position in the Congress, I think, let's say even comparable to Narasimha Rao, who were senior congressmen who did a lot for their party, for the country, and perhaps did not get their due from their own party and their own party leadership. Would you say, what was his relationship therefore with Narasimha Rao like? You've described that in some detail in the book also. But was there a feeling that they had actually been shortchanged in a way?
With Narasimha Rao, my father had an excellent relationship, and not just because, both of them were very voracious readers. And they would talk, their conversation would go much beyond politics, talking about philosophy, world history, literature. Narasimha Rao ji had a very close personal relationship with my mother. So I remember him coming to our house many times for meals. And if for something, my mother would say that, let me ask Pranab. So he would jokingly say that this is between you and me, why to drag Pranab in it. So there was a very strong relationship. And one grievance, one grudge, one complaint against Sonia Gandhi, I think my father could never forgive her for, was not allowing PV Narasimha Rao's body to come into AICC. And he told this to me, to his other associates many times, that this was absolutely wrong. And he himself requested Sonia ji to open the AICC gate to let the vehicle contain having his mortal remains to come. So she remained silent. And in his diary entries also, he was pretty scathing about it, and he said that, this is something, to the eternal shame of Sonia Gandhi and her children, that they did not allow the mortal remains of a former Prime Minister and a former Congress President, to come into AICC. I think this is something which, he was deeply hurt about it, about this treatment of Narasimha Rao by the Gandhi family.
And now today, when Narasimha Rao is awarded the Bharat Ratna posthumously, and when you look back on it, was this like a huge missed opportunity for Dr. Manmohan Singh's government and the UPA? They could have done it. But
of course.
The BJP.
Of course, they could have done it, and not only forget about Bharat Ratna. I think in 2020 or 2019, it was just a few months before my father's death. That was also the birth centenary year of PV Narasimha Rao. So Telangana Pradesh Congress Committee was celebrating it. They were doing some programs. And that time, then their president was Telangana Congress President Uttam Kumar Reddy. He requested my father to that was just the beginning of COVID, so I think it was 2020. So to make a video recording and send. So my father wrote in diary that good Congress is doing, but it should have been done at the AICC level, not at a state level. And he also wrote that perhaps it is done to counter the attempt of KCR to appropriate the legacies of a distinguished congressperson. So, and then again, he wrote, there are various, at different points, there is his mention of that Sonia Gandhi did not allow the body of PV Narasimha Rao to come. So even at his centenary celebration, a former Congress president and a prime minister from Congress, his birth centenary was being just celebrated by the state, not by the AICC. So I don't think, under no way they would have given Bharat Ratna to PV Narasimha Rao. And there is also another interesting entry, though I don't know what happened actually after that. I still remember 30th October, I think 2012. I remember the date because that's my birthday. Otherwise, my memory is not that good. So there is an entry that my father suggested to Cabinet Secretary to talk to Pulak Chatterjee to ascertain views of Sonia Gandhi to give Bharat Ratna to Dr. Manmohan Singh. And then he went on writing that, why should he be given Bharat Ratna? Great economist, the way he steered Indian economy through a very, very crisis period, situation, world recession and all. But after that, there was silence. And we know next year, Bharat Ratna was given to Sachin Tendulkar and, I think Mr. Rao, the scientist. So there was no further reference to that. Now that itself, I find it very mysterious. The Cabinet Secretary, a direction coming from the President, Cabinet Secretary would have definitely told Pulak Chatterjee to ascertain his views. Now, did Pulak Chatterjee actually talk to Sonia Gandhi? If he did, what happened after that? So, I'm pointing this out that it is strange. And I will not be very surprised, to be very honest, that after a few years, if BJP government still continues, perhaps a Bharat Ratna would be given to Dr. Manmohan Singh. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised either. Congress should have definitely given much more honor to Narasimha Rao ji than what was given. And in fact, just the day before the announcement of his Bharat Ratna, on a Congress social media post, I saw that there was a list of Congress prime ministers minus PV Narasimha Rao, and I actually quoted that tweet. It was from an office bearer of Congress IT cell, official office bearer, and I actually quoted that tweet and said, "Where is PV Narasimha Rao?" So this is the kind of treatment, Congress is given.
So that tells you a lot about the Congress party's culture, which is probably why it is in the state that it is in today, which is this personality cult. You can't say anything about the family, or you get ostracized. You get cut off. What did your father, think about this personality cult? Because it's also the people around the Gandhis who build that cult, right? They're sycophants, and like I said, now it's not just unique to them. Every party is copying this style of political functioning. But what did he think of the fact that anyone who remotely disagreed with them or criticized them or didn't agree with them on everything would just be an outcast the next day?
He never talked to me about it, because when I was there in politics, before I joined politics, I was least interested in politics. So, we never discussed politics. And when I joined politics, obviously, he did not talk to me anything in detail about it, except for a few stray comments here and there. But there is a lengthy entry in his diary. I think on 28th July, he passed away on 31st August 2020, and where he introspected that what went. He was very upset about the way, Congress was going, and there are many earlier entries also. But there, this whole development of this personality cult, and how it started from Indiraji's time, and he also held himself responsible for this. And
so he recognized the
problem.
problem.
He recognized the problem, and he said that, it's me, perhaps, people like me. Not, he didn't write perhaps. He said it's me and people like me, who because of our blind loyalty first to Indiraji, later on to Sonia Gandhi, we have allowed the party organization to totally deteriorate, to the centralization of power, the replacement of internal elections through the nomination. So the organization absolutely weakens, it collapses, So he wrote in detail, which I again wrote in my book about it, and there are also other entries. So yes, this development of this personality cult, it did not happen in one day. It has taken years, and today it has, and generations. And Indira Gandhi had that charisma and the political acumen to carry it through. People voted for her. Perhaps, the way today people are voted for Mr. Narendra Modi. I really don't know, but BJP seems to have a very strong organization as well. So, it's extremely important, and Nidhi, my very little experience of being in active politics. Of course you need a strong charismatic leader. Of course you need a very strong narrative, political narrative. But you also need a very strong organization. Grassroots level workers. Popular leaders at every level, starting from booth to district, at state level. So these are the people who are carrying your message. These are the people who are actually holding you up. So if you totally destroy that organization by this entire personality cult, it is bound to have its effect. And Congress is still potentially a very strong organization. It has got still a nationwide presence. So it did not collapse in a day, but over the years, perhaps, and over the generation, this has led to
So that brings me to the present, and what Pranab Mukherjee thought of Rahul Gandhi, for example. Again, that is something that made headlines because he felt that Rahul Gandhi was politically immature. Now, do you think that is an opinion that he would still hold of Rahul Gandhi today, post Bharat Jodo Yatra, and where polls actually showed that at least in the public, opinions about him have changed over the years. Although right now, inexplicably, he's sitting in Cambridge, apparently, when he should be campaigning in India, but one doesn't understand what the Congress is always doing. But would he still have that opinion of Rahul Gandhi?
I wrote in my book, before Bharat Jodo Yatra, my father passed away. And he felt that Rahul Gandhi was yet to mature politically. And he was very about his very frequent absences, But I wrote in his book, after Bharat Jodo Yatra, and the book came out after Bharat Jodo Yatra, that had my father been alive, he would have appreciated Rahul Gandhi's connect and his determination to do this huge yatra. But, I did not write that because it happened after that. It was... But, he would have appreciated Bharat Jodo Yatra. But again, he would have been very disappointed when at the anniversary of Bharat Jodo Yatra, Rahul Gandhi was abroad. He just gave an order that, Bharat Jodo Yatra, it should be done at booth level, it should be done at this level, that level. But he was not there present at Bharat Jodo Yatra anniversary. That would have been a very strong message in the election year, just before, a few months before the election, that again to, his own presence, he is the face of the Congress. Let's face it. Congress president might be somebody else, but he is the face of Congress. So he would have been again disappointed of Rahul Gandhi's disappearance or lack of presence on the Bharat Jodo Yatra anniversary. And as you are rightly saying, what is he doing now? Just giving a break to Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra and sitting in Cambridge. So, I don't know. Either my father did not understand and perhaps did not agree with Rahul Gandhi's style of politics, because he believed that a politician's job is 24/7. If I would, in my short career of 5 years, and I was just a nobody in politics, if I would want to go for a break for 2 days, 3 days, he would shout at me. He said, "Aise politics nahi hota hai. You can't do politics like that. There is no holiday for politicians." So, his idea of politics was something very different. So, his disappointed in Rahul was not only just because of lack of what he felt lack of political maturity, but also his very frequent absences and his sudden disappearance.
So in that sense, what do you think of the state of the Congress today? And this is important because, like you said, it is still a pan-India national opposition party. I'm sure you would admit that a lot of the exodus from the Congress that we're seeing of senior leaders and several former chief ministers of the party have now left, like Ghulam Nabi Azad, Ashok Chavan. The list is very long. A lot of it also has to do with pressure that's coming in from agencies like the ED. So it's not all, just ideological differences. But, what therefore do you think of the state of the principal opposition party today? Do you think that they now need to look to 2029, or that they're still in the fight for 2024?
This is a very complex question, Nidhi. In 2024, they are going for alliances, which is very good. No harm in it. But what is Congress's objective? Is Congress's objective just to defeat BJP and Modi? Or is Congress's objective to revive itself? Say in 2024, I'm just saying hypothetically that all the opposition parties come together, fight a fantastic election, win. But what is going to be Congress's position? Because Congress, you have to understand, is not only fighting BJP, but most of the regional parties. For example, Delhi, AAP in Delhi, they have taken Congress's space. They haven't taken BJP's space. So similarly in Bengal, so what is Congress going to do in the long run? That is it going to be a party which is just going to, whose aim is just forming a coalition government and having maybe negotiate the position of prime ministership? Or is Congress going to revive survive on its own by strengthening its party organization, by encouraging grassroots level workshops, leadership, by having decentralization. So that is something Congress need to figure out as a long-term strategy. Because Congress is weakened today. The opposition, combined opposition wins, fair enough. But if Congress is still the principal opposition, and still organizationally it has got a pan-India. So if Congress continuously, gets weakened, and state after state, what will happen in 2029?
But to be the devil's advocate here, is it just a simple problem of over-centralization of power in the Congress? Isn't that true of the BJP as well? I mean, everything is now decided by Narendra Modi and Amit Shah in Delhi. And you've seen the way they sidelined veteran leaders like Vasundhara Raje, Shivraj Chauhan, and others, who've been their chief ministers. They've just been pushed aside. So it's very over-centralized in a different way in the BJP, yet the BJP wins elections. So obviously the BJP is doing something that the Congress isn't.
That is something that, again, there is not a simple answer. But, when you are talking about centralization and sidelining veteran leaders in the state, believe me, Nidhi, the other day I was thinking कि 30 साल बाद कांग्रेस का जो हाल है बीजेपी का भी शायद वही हाल होगा. I don't know how, every political party has its own culture, has its own way of functioning, has its own. So I really don't know about BJP's organizational structure. I really don't know how they operate at a grassroots level. But again, as I said, that, it is, some leaders are very charismatic, like Indira Gandhi was, like Narendra Modi ji's. Perhaps to have a certain degree of votes, certain percentage of vote, I would not say 100% of votes to capture. It is their own charisma. But again, that is my opinion, I could be very wrong, but until and unless, the organization is strong, I think in any political party, just on the basis of a charismatic leader, cannot survive for long.
And the BJP RSS organization is very strong.
Exactly.
You've spoken also in the book at length about
By the way, sorry to interrupt. What we are talking just now about the contemporary, these are my opinion. These are yes.
Not necessarily his, but it all flows into the same thing. Your father also seemed to get along really well with Narendra Modi, which was interesting. He also went to the RSS headquarters, which shocked a lot of people because he was there sharing the stage. And you, in fact, had tweeted about that, and you had tweeted against him at that time. You were critical of your own father visiting the RSS headquarters. Before you answer that part, first tell me about, how he had this good relationship with Mr. Modi.
I think there are, one of the main reasons was my father's interpretation of his role and the limitation of the position as the president. And he was a copybook president. And he was very sure that his role is not to interfere in the running of the government. And in fact, this is a very interesting anecdote which I have heard from Mr. Modi himself, that when he came to meet my father after being elected and as a prime minister elect, but before the oath-taking ceremony. So, he touched my father, and he always, in private, he always touched my father's feet. And he said, Dada, you guide me. So, my father supposedly told him that people have given you, that we belong to two different political ideology. People have given you mandate. Governance is the domain of the executive. It is your job. I am not going to interfere in that. If you need any advice on constitutional matters, I am always going to be there. So while narrating it to me, Mr. Modi said that Dada ke liye ye baat kehna bahut badi baat thi. So I think my father was very clear about his constitutional role as president. And that's why he said that, despite, we belong to two different, very political, very different. But he knew that he was very, and there are, instances of his belief, reflection of his belief in his role as a union cabinet minister also. There are references of these in the book also, that it is not just, he believed that this is not the president's job to interfere in any way in the governance. That is the job.
Was it just that?
So
this is
one of the reason, definitely. And I mean, I can't deny that there was a personal chemistry between the two leaders. I mean, I have seen them at close quarters. What is the reason for this? I don't know. I mean, there was definitely a very strong personal chemistry. And yes, my father admired Mr. Modi's ability to work very hard. There were many disagreements also, but my father, and which I came to know about it through the diaries, some of it I wrote, but he never disclosed it, and he once actually said also as a president that it's not that we agree on everything, but there always, remain closed door. So those disagreements never came out because he felt that he could just advise, but the ultimate decision is the government's decision. So some of it I have written in my book. And so it was a combination of things. But of course, he was also worried about, and that, I mean, anybody doing a Google search on his presidential speeches, would find that as president, he spoke about every contemporary issue of concerns. I mean, in his thousands of speeches, he said that, pluralism is the soul of India. It is the existence, it's the core civilizational values. Of course, unlike a politician, or unlike election campaign, he did not name anybody. He did not refer to any particular instance, with the skill developed over, years of being a politician. But he, very strongly conveyed his messages. Even as president, he did that. So, there were obviously differences, but those differences were again as I handled very well, because
any that you can share
about Uttarakhand. He advised the president. He advised. I think Arun Jaitley from the government side was dealing with him, and he very strongly advised the government not to impose the president's rule.
So, why did he go to the RSS headquarters? And
because
why did you publicly criticize him for it? Which is great that you did, because it shows you have a mind of your own. You don't have to agree with everything your father does. Ask my dad.
Yeah.
But, that was really interesting, that you did take a public stand. But it was also, like I said, quite surprising to many of us that he went. So why did he do that?
Well, firstly, my father was no longer involved with any political party. He was a hardcore congressman. He remained a Congress person, a Congress ideology runs in his vein, And why he went? Because he believed in dialogue. He believed that in democracy, dialogue, and that's why he was known as a generator of consensus, a consensus generator. Because he had the ability to listen, not necessarily agree, to listen, disagree, argue, with the other point of views. That is the strength of a multi-party democracy. So when this whole news broke, and that time I was fully active in politics, I was very, very upset. I was quite influenced by the argument that he should not go. And there was one argument which was going around at that time, that by going to RSS headquarters, Pranab Mukherjee is giving legitimacy to RSS. So I was, at home fighting with him continuously, raging, and he kept quiet. He did not utter a word. Only one day he got very irritated with me, and he said, "Who am I to give legitimacy to RSS? It is the people of India who has given legitimacy to RSS by making one of their pracharak, the Prime Minister, with a thumping majority. And if you ignore it, it's only at your own peril you can ignore it." So that was the only time, he retorted back. But later on, when I look back, I think I just overreacted. My father actually, like a very shrewd politician, he actually used the RSS platform to preach Congress ideology. From RSS platform, he quoted the admired Pandit Nehru. From RSS platform, he talked about pluralism, secularism, talked about the diversity of India. And it was like widely publicized, I think every major news. So I don't think in recent years, Congress ideology, got so much of publicity, and that is also, from, in a way, from a very unfriendly territory.
So in hindsight, you think your criticism of his visit was a mistake?
Yes. I think in hindsight, I think my criticism was totally a mistake. I tend to get into these fits of anger and just do things, and Twitter is a horrible thing. In anger, you just pick up the phone and just you type something without thinking. But yes, looking back, I think it was not right. And by going there, my father might have made the current Congress high command unhappy, but he definitely did not betray, rather he upheld the Congress ideology.
Finally, Sharmistha Mukherjee, your own political journey at least was a much shorter one. You quit politics 2-3 years ago. Why did you decide to do that? And what has been the sort of pushback you've got from the Congress ecosystem on this book? Because I saw that you had posted an open letter to Rahul Gandhi recently about the kind of social media trolling that you've been subject to. And it's a subject I feel very strongly about, because I don't think a lot of people realize the kind of misogyny and sexism and abuse that women in particular face on social media. And it is a serious issue. Did you ever get a response to that letter, first of all?
No, I did not get any response. Forget about any response. What I am hurt the most about, I know all the Congress leaders. I know most of their social media people. And the person who was, of course, there was like lot of trolling since the book came out. And also in one of my interviews, I think on the sidelines of Jaipur Lit Fest, I dared to say that Congress should look beyond Gandhi-Nehru family for leadership. That is my own opinion. I am no longer bound by party discipline, And a person, under whose leadership Congress is failing again and again, and there is no sign of its survival. So obviously, as a concerned citizen and as a strong Congress supporter, I have the right to give my opinion. But since then, I had been being trolled very badly, very viciously, and there was one particular person who started using sexually abusive language, not only against me, but against my father. In a way, character assassinating him, saying dirtiest, nastiest things. First I was quite shocked. I tagged Jairam Ramesh, Supriya Srinath, Rahul Gandhi's office, Srinath, who is the head of social media in Congress. No response. Then I, wrote this open letter. But I am saddened by it. If even one Congress leader would have said that, Sharmistha, what you are saying, we do not agree with you. We do not agree with your view. But, we don't condone this kind of behavior. We don't, we condemn this kind of language being used. Nobody. Rahul Gandhi talks about this, his favorite phrase, kya nafrat ki bazaar mein mohabbat ki dukaan. That itself I find it very strange, because mohabbat is not a commodity which you can buy and sell in a shop. But, he is talking about mohabbat. He can't even convert his own so-called staunch followers on social media to just use a decent language.
Well, I can say this from my own personal experience as well, that social media is a very toxic space, Twitter in particular. The BJP IT cell exemplifies it. I've received the vilest abuse from them. I've received it from Congress supporters and Aam Aadmi Party supporters. So I think all of us do something right when everybody abuses us. But are you going to join the BJP? Because
no way.
Are you planning to? Because again, a lot of, you know how Delhi is, how IIC is, everybody likes to
trust me, firstly, I have said it from every platform, and believe me or not, I am a true blood, blue blood Congressee. I believe in Congress ideology. I do not have faith in Rahul Gandhi's leadership, but that does not mean I am not a Congressee. I believe in secularism. I believe in pluralism. I believe in a diverse society. I think Pandit Nehru was the person because of whom democracy is still surviving in this country. So I am a die-hard Congressee. No question of my joining, BJP or any other political party. This is totally against my system, But I quit politics because I realized that politics is not my cup of tea. And I joined in a very emotional moment, in 2014 when Congress came down to 44 seats. And I felt as a Congress supporter, I should come forward and work. So it was a very, emotional decision, impulsive
very brave decision also to come on TV in that time.
And yes. But I realized that in a few years that it is not my cup of tea. And in fact, in 2020, I remember my father was still there. After the Delhi assembly elections, again, we scored 0 and our vote percentage, I think, went down to pathetic 2.4. And I felt that we did not even fight. I was very depressed. And during one of our dinner time conversation, I asked my father that, Baba, would you feel very bad if I quit politics? Pat came the reply that, when did you do politics that you would quit?
Trust him to say that.
Yes.
Well, I hope you do eventually make your way back into active politics, because I think politics needs good people. And like you said, you are a congressperson at heart. It's not about the personalities. For you, it's about an ideology that you believe in. And maybe the Congress party, somebody out there is trying to listen to well-wishers, who want them to be a strong opposition or one day be a ruling party or whatever, but, not take it in the way that they necessarily do today. It was a pleasure talking to you, Sharmistha Mukherjee.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Nidhi. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Please, a big round of applause.